Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with the Soul. I'm Rita Hickman, and I'm a body-mind expert and shiatsu massage therapist in the Chicago, Illinois area. And what you see behind me is my woods. I like to film in front of these, and you'll be able to, as the seasons go by. Good morning, Kathy. Nice to see you. As the seasons go by, you'll be able to watch how everything changes, and it acts as a nice metaphor for life. One of the reasons I live in the woods. So today's topic is something that's near and dear to my heart, which is PTSD. And energy medicine. So let's start out with a quick definition or an understanding of PTSD. Not necessarily from a scientific perspective or legal perspective, but from the perspective of emotions and the body and our inner world. So PTSD, as you probably know, is post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think the fine line between whether something is PTSD and whether something is a regular trigger, it's subjective. So we can have traumas or we can have memories and things that create triggers of things that didn't maybe physically happen to us. So it really doesn't matter right now. We're not going to get in the discussion of are the memories that I have or the thoughts that I have, are they real? Because we're going to talk about the nervous system and talk about your inner world and inner experience. So when something happens to you and your body reacts to it, whether it's just something that you saw, something you perceived, something that you interpreted, whatever it was, if your body went into a fight or flight response, then you probably created a trigger around it if you never processed through it. And if you never processed through it and the trigger creates a strong impact on your life in a way that you really don't like, it affects major parts of your life, whether it be your sleep, your eating, your good morning, Bonnie, your sleep, your eating, your ability to have relationships, your ability to connect and interact with people. If it negatively impacts your life, if a trigger that you have from a memory or perception or experience significantly affects your life, it would be considered, from a healer point of view, PTSD. And so that said, a lot of us are walking around with PTSD and we just blow it off. That's one of these reasons that this big movement, the Me Too movement's coming about, is because these triggers, these experiences have become so overwhelming and so impacting on women's lives. And we cannot tolerate, with the level of stress that we live under and the level of noise and overstimulation, these triggers that we have are beginning to have a bigger and bigger impact on our sanity, on our ability to function and live happy, well-balanced lives. So what someone might not have considered, they might have considered manageable or no big deal, as stress dials up, it turns into a disorder of triggering from sounds, from environment, from people, from memories, that cause us to go back into a spiral or a memory loop that we have a hard time handling. Because as you know, when we have a thought or a feeling, it directly impacts our body. Fight or flight isn't just a head game. Fight or flight is a nervous system response to something that's going on. So one of the things, our body doesn't know the difference between something that we imagine and something that we actually do, something we actually experience in the external world. So we can be traumatized by things that we saw on television, by the news even, or video games, or movies, or books that we read. If it impacted us in a way that it became a trigger, it became part of our memories, then for us it's real. But when it comes to the body-mind, there really isn't a big difference between real and not real. Real is your truth. Real is what you experienced. I'm not saying necessarily in a legal point of view, as I said, or from an insurance point of view, but real is something that you experienced, that you dealt with, irregardless of the external world. So let's look at it that way. PTSD is when you have a trigger that's starting to negatively impact everything in your life. So energy, as we talked about before, energy is everything. It's your thoughts, feelings, emotions, physicality, body, cells, all of it. So when we do energy healing for PTSD, we are helping people heal their triggers. We're helping them unpack the box, take the energy out of the box, move it, clear it out, and come to a way of navigating it and living with it. When we keep stuff boxed up, when we keep it in its little closet with all its associated memories and things, then when we walk through the world, we end up getting blindsided by something that will trigger us, will remind us, whether it be a scent, something that's familiar, a thought, a memory, a person, a situation. And when that opens, when there's all that energy, all that judgment and shame and guilt and things like that around something, then it's going to come out, it's going to be projected on whatever person or situation we're experiencing. We're not present in the moment. So a lot of people think there isn't much you can do with PTSD. Good morning, Marta. And actually, there's a lot with energy medicine that can be done. There's a lot of tools. And next week, we're going to talk about more shamanic tools to help people heal. But we're going to focus still on the Asian medicine this week a little bit, on Asian medicine tools and techniques to help people heal. So there's a method that I brought into my practice, and I call it Duvall Healing Therapy. And what it does is it helps people go through and process the entire experience of something that happened. So if you triggered, and if this is something you deal with, there's a very specific process that helps you rewire your nervous system and rewire your brain. You aren't trapped forever in reacting to something. If you want to shift it and change it, there's a very definite process. So I'm going to walk you through the process today, and it's something that you can do on your own. It's something that you can do with someone helping you. I do Duvall Healing Therapy, clearly, because I'm the one who pulled it together. But it's based on indigenous medicines and Asian medicines that have been around for thousands of years. How we work mentally, emotionally, and physically, the truth is a truth is a truth is a truth. So that doesn't change. So this is just another format or another structure to help people work through their PTSD triggers. So here we go. The first thing that you would do is make some time and make some space. Create a sacred space for yourself. You don't have to be elaborate. It can just be a quiet time during your day or in your morning. And keep anchors around you. You know, when I went to Colombia, I studied with the Arawaku, the indigenous tribes in the mountains of Colombia. Some of the healing experiences, I knew I didn't want to lose myself in. I knew I didn't want to be triggered and not be able to come back. Good morning, Lindsay. So the first thing that I did when I created a sacred space for myself was I put anchors all around me. I put things, music, from Scotland, how fabulous. I put things which would remind me of who I am, where I'm going, and that would pull me out whenever I got too far. Because the thing with energy healing, it's kind of like vaccines. You know, not the vaccines which are causing all sorts of crazy stuff, but, you know, some of the basic vaccines, or not really vaccines, but holistic medicine sorts of things, where you have a small dose of something in order to trigger so that it can be healed. So that's basically what you're going to be doing, is triggering something so it can be healed. But you don't want to go too far into it. You don't want to turn it into a healing crisis. You don't want to fall off your cliff and not be able to function. So you can do this in small doses. Sometimes you do it every day for a week or every day for 2 weeks, just for 10-15 minutes. And it chips away, it cleans out all the stuff that's built up into your PTSD reaction. So I'll create a sacred space and I'll create an environment, one where I feel safe and one that anytime I want, I have things which will help pull me out of my mindset. So whenever I get a little bit too close to something, whenever I feel a little bit more unstable than I want to be, I can pull myself out. So for some people that can be crystals, that can be pictures, that can be music, it can be something that you have a memory associated with. It can be just about anything. So, but put these anchors around you so that you are in control of the experience that you're having. You're in control of your healing process. Then you will want to create a relaxing environment for yourself, whatever that looks like. You know, if that looks like a little bit darker or softer music, binaural music, meta music, things which put you into a bit of a trance state. And that's what shamanic drumming does. So if you've got a shamanic drumming CD or, you know, something that just does that rhythmic sound, that quiets your conscious mind and gets it out of the way so that you can access your subconscious mind. Anything that's rhythmic like that, it could be rain, it could be watching a fire, it could be a routine that you do every day, it could be driving on the interstate. That rhythm sedates your frontal lobe, gets it out of the way so that you can actually access your subconscious. So how do I, Lindsay has a question, how do you put my anchors around myself? First of all, I look around and see what I have that have positive memories or positive impacts on me. When I was doing some healing work, as I said, in Colombia, I brought some specific items with me. And so I brought a memory, a gift that a good friend gave me, who's a mentor, who's a healer. So I knew whenever I'd open my eyes, I could see them, and I would remember. Good morning, Michelle. And I'd remember, oh yes, I'm not alone. Oh yes, I have a friend who's been through this. Or I'd take things which I thought were beautiful. So I'd have some of my crystals, which I know are beautiful. And maybe I'd put a candle around them so that they would catch the light. So when I would open up my eyes, I would see that beauty, and I'd see that flickering and remember, oh yes, life is not as dark and as difficult as it may seem right this moment. Or perhaps I would put things that reminded me of experiences that I had. Good morning, Janine. Or breakthroughs that I'd had in my life. There was a memory that stuck with me of someone who was in 12-step program, and they kept a coin in their pocket. And the coin in their pocket to them represented the relationship with their kids. I think it was a quarter that had the birth year of one of their children. And every time that they felt a little stressed out, they would feel for that quarter in their pocket. Nothing that anybody else would really know it was. And you could always find other quarters with the same date on them. But find that anchor that said, oh yes, this is why I'm doing this. This is what's bigger than me and what's more important. Hi Tony, it's been a while. How nice to see you. So anchors, that's how you put anchors around yourself. Sometimes I'll put anchors of textures that I'm wearing. I'll wear something that's soft or that has a specific texture to it, so that when I start to get more involved, or when I start to be concerned that I might be going too deep, I've got something now that I can touch, that I can feel, that will bring me out. You can use sound. You know, many times when people go into meditation, they'll use, they've got apps of little gongs that will bring you out of it. That would be another anchor. So anchors are anything that are sensory based, that remind you who you are, remind you of a bigger picture, remind you of what's important, and that will bring you back to a grounded place. Because when you do PTSD work and when you do energy, work with PTSD, the idea is not to re-traumatize yourself. You don't want to re-traumatize yourself and go back into, directly back into that experience. So you have to, as they say in many, when people work with ayahuasca, when people work with peyote, when people work with things like that, set and setting are very important. So believe it or not, putting your anchors around and creating a setting that will make you feel safe. Okay, you want to create a setting that makes you feel safe. So Lindsay, if you were looking for something in your life that was important to you, perhaps you would have something that reminds you of your son. It can be something new. It can be something that you pick out purposely that reminds you of your son, or something that you pick out purposely that reminds you of beauty or nature, maybe a picture of a beautiful sunset, something that reminds you that what is happening in your psyche, what's happening in your mind, body, is not all there is. So it doesn't have to be something that you have from your past. It doesn't have to be something that you carried through in life. So you don't have to go, oh, I don't want to lose this. I used to walk around grocery stores and stores like that, and it was a weird little habit that I would have, where I'd pick something up and I'd put it in my cart and I'd walk around the store for a while. And when I got done, I'd realized I didn't need this thing anymore, and I could put it back, and then I didn't have to spend the money. Once we have something in our possession, even if it's not still in our possession, we have it for forever. It doesn't go away. So even if you touched or interacted or visualized or pretended with something that you had, or an experience or something you had in the past, you can use something that represents that's metaphorical for it, because the subconscious works on metaphors. So it doesn't have to be an actual, energetic piece, a watch from a family member or something. It doesn't have to be that. It can be something that reminds you of that. And that's kind of how vision boards work too. People create vision boards to remind themselves of all the big things and the goals that they want to achieve in life. So that would be how you would set up your setting, how you'd set up your anchors. And then you would create an environment that purposely dialed down your nervous system. So bright lights do not help. They trigger you. So even if you can't get out of an area, you can put something over your eyes. You can have the light softer. You create things and an environment that makes you feel cozy and relaxed. So when I work with people, one of the things that I do is we pick music that we want to play, and we pick the essential oil that we want to put in the diffuser. Because those two things, the smell and the sound, even if your eyes are closed, they help take you in the direction that you want to go. So they can act a little bit as the path that you take to go through your healing journey. So I will very mindfully help them pick anything from Paul Simon to Janis Joplin to an ocean, because that may be their favorite place to go, or from a memory of a vacation, to recreate an environment that makes them feel comfortable and safe. So you've got your set and you've got your setting. You know where you want to go, you know what you want the outcome to be, and you've created an environment to support that. Once you do that, then we go through a processing thing. The first thing we do is that environment, and the next thing we do is we allow ourselves to be triggered on a small scale. So we let ourselves tiptoe up to the box, maybe look under the door, maybe, look through the window, and if we have to run away again, we do. I was just talking about this with someone we're like a little mouse in a closet, and the first time that you sneak out and start looking at these memories and start looking at, these ideas or feelings, maybe you just open the door and shut it really quick. This isn't about a one-time deal of we're going to heal everything in one fell swoop, because if you're not ready to do that, if you're not psychologically ready to engage these things, sometimes you just need to consider engaging them, and then you're done. That's enough for the day. But it's the repetition of getting familiar with what triggers you, getting familiar with your triggers, that you start to release all of that emotional angst around it, and start to take it out of the box and integrate it with the rest of your mind. Integrate it with your adult mind so that you can see through it through the set of eyes that you have right now. So you don't have to think that, oh, I did this once and this is a big healing, or oh, I'm a failure because I couldn't look at the thing that I'm afraid of. Instead, look at it as a process, as a gaining of confidence and understanding and wisdom about something, so that it starts to make sense to you. So if you, as I said, if you have to open up the closet door, peek out, and slam it again real quick, that's okay. And then the next time, you may open the door a little bit longer and then slam it really quick. It's a process. It's step by step by step. But that first step is letting yourself feel what's going on, letting yourself feel the experience that you had, the fears, the judgments, the insecurities, all of that felt sense. And only do it for as long as you feel that you have a handle on it. As soon as you start to feel that you're getting a little bit too close to something, it's okay to back off. A lot of people who are in healing professions, they've got this mindset of well, you have to do it, you have to push through it, you have to power through it, and damn the consequences. And that is a very unhealthy and very unsafe way to deal with things. You always want to feel as if you are the one who's driving this bus, who's directing the experience. So you need to allow yourself to feel what's happened in order to start moving that energy. The next step is, once you've felt it, for as long as you're comfortable feeling it, then you take a step back objectively. You use one of your anchors to pull yourself out a little bit, and you look at it from an objective point of view, almost from an observer. Now, if you have PTSD, if you have trauma, one of the things that you probably learned in coping with the trauma is disassociation. Now, I want to give you a different interpretation or a different framing for disassociation. When we disassociate, for me at least, in my experience, I would find a quiet place inside of myself where I was detached from anything happening to me externally. I was aware of what was going on, but it wasn't emotionally affecting me. Now, if we want to look at it from a negative point of view, that would be complete disassociation. This isn't happening, nothing's going on, I don't feel it. One of the reasons we do drugs, alcohol, all that other stuff. But if you've got that skill, and it can be a gift of disassociation, it gives you the opportunity to look at what happened in your past, whatever memory you have, from an objective point of view. You're able to see it from a distance, as if it's not quite you. It's you, but it's not quite you. And you can start to look at it almost as a timeline and see how it fits into a bigger experience. Because the idea is, how do we take this memory or reaction and reintegrate it with the rest of our psyche? So after you've felt it as long as you want to, then go into that quiet place, that space where you're watching. In Buddhist meditation and in Buddhist beliefs, it would be the observer. And that's, to me, that was always my disassociation, was the observer. I was watching what was happening to me without feeling it, without being engaged with it. And when you've got that perspective, almost like you're watching a movie, you're able to start to make connections and see understanding that you might not have been able to see before. And things start to make sense. You start to see where the patterns are. You start to see how, someone fit into a bigger picture. So after you feel it, as long as you want, you go into that quiet space. Some people would call it the soul. Some people would call it, as I said, disassociation. Buddhists would call it the observer. Go to that space so that you can look at it. Now that space for me in my mind, I actually created a mind room, and this is something that's been around, forever. So that space isn't just empty for me. That space for me is at the top of some stairs with a fireplace and a very comfortable feather bed with a brass head railing, flowers on a side table, and a window with a tree outside where I can watch the weather, and a big, beautiful carpet in front of the fireplace, and maybe, cookies or chocolate next to the bed. So my quiet place I purposely have created so that it's safe, it's comfortable for me, and I can watch, my past. I can watch the memory that frightens me so much. So once you've done that kind of for as long as you want, you've observed the experience for a while, then you go to the next place, which is you give yourself a break. You put it down. Even if it's just distract yourself. And you can distract yourself with all sorts of things. You can distract yourself by touching, as I said, that beautiful fabric that you might be wearing. You can distract yourself by reciting and drawing in your head the alphabet. I do that one a lot lately, where in my head I do the alphabet and I can see myself drawing it and doing that over and over. When I was younger, I used to picture a tree branch, and I would outline the tree branch over and over and over and over, and that's what would help me fall asleep. So you want to break the pattern. You want to do a pattern interrupt, and that can be done by any sort of distraction. Maybe that's when you open your eyes and you watch the crystal and the flickering candle that you set up. So once you've sat in there for a while, where you've given yourself a break, then the last piece is you start to envision a reality that you prefer. You start to envision a different interpretation. Good morning, Susan. So everyone in this life has the ability to create a story for themselves that they like, that they prefer. It's not necessarily what's going on in the external world, but we get to decide what something means. And if you want to be as happy and healthy as possible, you want to create a meaning around something that takes you to a higher good, that makes you feel better about things. It's all right if your interpretation of something is different from other people's. You are allowed to create a vision, to create a world that works for you, that makes you feel good inside. That's your right as a human being. And everybody does it. They just do it subconsciously or unconsciously, and so they don't take ownership of it. When you want to heal from triggers, from PTSD sorts of things, you want to start shaping your reality in the direction that you want, rather than waiting for external forces to shape it for you. So as I said, this last piece, you allow yourself to think about what you wish that this would mean. When this happened to me, what could it have meant? For me, when I look at my past, I've interpreted as it shaped me into this person that I really like, into this person that in some ways is much further ahead emotionally and psychologically than a lot of other people that I know. And my life is easier overall because I have this wider understanding. And that when things do happen to me, I've got a much better way of navigating it. Whereas other people who didn't have difficult situations, when those situations finally happen, they're blindsided by them. They don't see them, and their whole world is devastated. I don't think I could ever be as devastated as I was in the past ever again, because I know too much. I know how to navigate these things. I know how to reframe them. So basically this last piece is a reframing. You get to look at any situation or any experience you have in whatever light you want, and I would suggest that you look at it in the most positive light that you can for what it really means, because it's about you navigating through the world and you working through these issues. So the 5 steps were: create a set and setting that makes you feel very safe, trigger and dive into the emotion of the memory only as much as you want to, and then take that step back, go into that quiet place and observe it so you can see a bigger picture, and then give yourself a break, put it all down for a little bit, do a pattern interrupt, and then envision and visualize as clearly as you can the reality that you'd like, the reality that takes you to your greatest good. And so you, in that way, can change your past. You can take something that was devastating and traumatic and controlled your world and ruined you and broke you. You can take something like that and turn it into the gold and the jewels and the greatest gift that you could ever want and ever have, something that you paid a very dear price for. So that's the idea. That's the cycle that we go through. And from an Asian medicine perspective, that's energy medicine, how we change your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs around something. And when we start cleaning these things up, then our external world starts to get better. Okay, Lindsay, you heard a lot about crystals, but don't know where to get them, and what's the best ones for your situation of healing? What do crystals do for you? Okay, crystals work with you in a number of different ways. One, they work as a symbol. When you look at them, what do they mean to you? So if you're going to pick a crystal, I would pick something that felt good to you, that made you feel good, because it's not about what it does for somebody else. It's about what it does for you. The next thing that a crystal will do is that if you leave it outside in earth, it will entrain to the same vibration as the earth. And so when you hold it close to you, your body will pick up that same vibration. So when I talk about vibration, I'm talking about actual physical measurable vibration. The earth has a vibration that's measurable. Everything that has a vibration that's measurable. And the earth's vibration is very soothing for the human psyche and for the human body. So when you take whatever crystal you have, you put it outside, you let it hang out there for a while, and then you can carry it close to you. You can put it in your pocket, you can put it in your room, you can, but the idea is that it's close to you. Something so that you can feel on some level, on some nervous system level, the vibration from these crystals. So for me, I don't work with a lot of different crystals because I prefer stones, and I work with basalt stones because they tend to pick up vibrations a little bit easier. And I get those by rivers, I get them by lakes, you can find some, by volcanoes, things along those lines. You can find a stone outside that feels good to you. Maybe it's a shape or you see something in it, just like you might be with cloud watching. You see something in the stone and it resonates with you and it feels good to have it close to you. So you don't have to go out and purchase a crystal. You can find one that you like. Find one that makes you feel good. And so if you do have some crystal shops around you or places that carry crystals, my suggestion would be to go in and start touching some of them and holding them close. And whatever gives you a little bit of a dopamine release, either because of its color or its shape or its texture or how it feels when it's close to you, that is the stone that you would want for you. Now, if you don't want to, as I said, purchase one, you might go into a store or shop and find the stones that talk to you the most. And then if you want something cheaper, then you can get that same similar stone on Amazon. Don't worry about whether something has a dark, evil, horrible lineage or because you get to change and shift the energy of something. And you can shift that and clean it, as I said, just by leaving it out on the earth, because that is so healing for everything. So don't worry too much about, something tagging you or pulling you into a dark space. You want to find what makes you feel good. And if you find what makes you feel good, then that will be in the right direction. Even if it's just, oh, this is pretty. This is a pretty stone. I like this. That's good enough. Anything that makes you feel a little bit better is the stone for you. Let's see. So we went through our process, went through the 5 steps, and ended with visualizing and creating and really being present in a new reality rather than in the past that you're carrying. You get to shape it and look at it from any perspective that you want. And you absolutely can take your trauma and can take your past and look at it through a different view screen, through a different lens, and turn it into something not that's, oh, happy-go-lucky, oh, isn't this great, not a smear over it, not a deluding yourself, but actually looking at it and saying, you know what, I'm okay with this. I'm all right. And let's see how I can turn this into something good, how I can make this something positive. Every time that you do that, it rewires your brain and it rewires your nervous system. And your triggering and your PTSD starts to dial down and gets less and less and less until you're able to navigate life in a way that you never thought was possible. So every time that you go through this process, you heal a little bit more and you become a little bit more of yourself and reclaim more parts of your soul. So if you'd love more information on this in future weeks, let me know, because I'll do a whole series then on Duvall Healing Therapy, on going through that mind-body process of healing PTSD. Otherwise, I will see you on Monday, 8:15 Central Standard Time. You can go to my website. It's in the process of being updated, so not all the links work quite yet. But please feel free to go there, check me out, look around, or text message me, call me, whatever. And we can set something up to help you through whatever you're going through. So I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday. Bye.